the mainstream media protecting Anthony Fauci, or does Anthony Fauci refuse to talk to challenging media? Let's find out. Hello there, you 5.8 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this voyage towards discernment, understanding nuance, understanding new truths, awakening the light within so that we can connect to one another differently without. I spoke to the fantastic Kim Iversen, formerly of The Hill, about her reasons for leaving The Hill. Was it to do with their refusal to let her interview Anthony Fauci, or did Anthony Fauci refuse to have Kim Iversen interview him? We don't know for certain yet, but we'll know in a minute because we've got Kim Iversen coming up. I suppose what interests me about this subject is, does Anthony Fauci refuse to answer difficult questions about things like natural immunity, recommendation of vaccines to the under fives, the clinical data, and whether the clinical data underwrites the decision to extend the vaccine program to young people? All of these questions, the lack of reporting around adverse events. And remember, people may call me an anti-vaxxer. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't have any opinion at all on what you do for yourself and for your family. You might live a different life than me. You might have different health concerns than me. You might have different social upbringing. You might have different prejudices. In fact, you definitely will. I don't consider it to be any of my business. What I do consider to be my business is that we have transparency between powerful people that make decisions and the media that report on the decisions that are being made. That we, the ordinary people of the world, are able to be part of a conversation regarding how we're governed. The alternative, of course, would be tyranny. Top-down, technocratic, new aristocratic tyrannies where experts, in inverted commas, unaccountable experts, deliver edicts and are never properly questioned. This conversation with Kim Iversen is fantastic. In my opinion, she's a brilliant journalist. I don't know what her personal politics are or her prejudices are. I'm not really interested. I'm interested in being given information and then having the ability to decide for myself what's true. If that's the way you see the situation, let me know in the comments below. If you aren't a subscriber to this channel yet, please subscribe now and turn on the notification bell in case the algorithm is against us, because you never know. Maybe big tech, maybe they're in league with powerful forces and they don't want us to... Sorry about this. I don't know why I did that. Enjoy Kim Iversen. Stay to the end of the video. It's fantastic. Why ain't you on The Hill no more?
Well, I'm not on The Hill because they would not allow me to interview Anthony Fauci.
Why not? You're good at interviews. Why can't you interview Anthony Fauci? I've heard of him.
Yeah, right. Haven't we all? I'm not really 100% certain exactly how it went down. I don't know if it was Anthony Fauci's team that said we don't want to be interviewed by that Kim chick, or if it was The Hill that protected Fauci from me and said, we're just not going to even present me to Fauci, thinking that then the Fauci team would maybe back out, or maybe I would ask too difficult of questions and put him on the spot. Or I'm not 100% certain. All I know is that when I found out Fauci was going to be interviewed by Rising, the show that I was on, and on the topic, of course, Fauci being about COVID, the pandemic, talking about the very subject that I'd been covering at length on The Hill. When I found out he was going to be on, I, of course, got excited, thought I was going to be part of that interview. And then the producers called me the night before and said, well, we didn't present your name to the Fauci team. When they asked, we told them it was these other hosts that are going to be interviewing and not you. And then I told them that's unacceptable. You need to go back to the team and tell them that I'm going to be in on that interview. And otherwise, the audience just won't trust us. The audience will look at the show and say, Kim is being held back. Kim is being censored. Kim is being limited. And that was something that I had promised to my audience that I brought over to The Hill over the last year, that I was joining, yes, corporate media, yes, part of the establishment to some degree, but I would be there so as long as I wasn't censored, held back, or limited. And the minute that were to change is the minute that I would no longer be able to be there. Then that would make me a liar to the audience. And so when they held me back from the Fauci interview and called me the morning of, after discussing with me the night before, they then called me the morning of and said, we haven't changed our mind. We're not going to go to the Fauci team and tell them you're a part of the interview. I don't know why they would need to tell them anyway, quite frankly. They should have just had me pop up in the interview and interview the guy. But they instead ran interference. And that was that. Unfortunately, I could no longer stick around when I had promised the audience that I was not going to be held back, censored, or limited. So
why did you want to interview Fauci, and what questions would you have asked Fauci?
Well, obviously, I wanted to interview Fauci because he is the person who guided the pandemic that put us into these various different limitations and mandates throughout the last couple of years of our lives. I mean, our lives have drastically changed since the pandemic in many ways. And Fauci was the guiding force on a lot of that. Now, he disputes that. He claims that he was just giving recommendations, that he's not the one who did mandates, that he's not the one who that controlled the border, but he just and in some ways he actually deflects and claims that he wasn't actually the one giving any of the guidance. I don't know how Fauci likes to flip-flop quite a bit, but he flips now and he says, well, no, I wasn't the one. That was the CDC. But the reality is that Fauci was very much in charge of this pandemic. And so, of course, he's the guy to talk to when it comes to interviewing anybody about the pandemic. It's Fauci. He is science, as he says. He's the science. So, good questions to ask Fauci would be, for example, now we're seeing these vaccines going into their 5th doses. For some people, they're discussing that coming this fall, saying that they're remodifying it for the Omicron variant. I'm not sure if they're going to consider that a first dose of a new vaccine or a 5th booster or 4th booster, I should say, or 3rd booster of the original vaccine. But they're rolling these things out. We have children that are being mandated to take them to go to, or I guess young adults to go to university, to enroll in schools. They're discussing it. And Fauci needs to be asked those questions. What is a vaccine? And because you and I think of a vaccine, at least I would assume you and I think of it the way that we've always thought of it, which is a vaccine is to prevent you from getting a disease. If you get the smallpox vaccine or the polio vaccine, your assumption is you're not going to get those diseases. And yet that has shifted and changed. The definition has changed. And now as people are on to their 5th dose of this vaccine, what is a vaccine to Anthony Fauci? Because people are being mandated and they're losing their jobs. They're losing their opportunities to be educated, all because of this semantics that's it's like lost in translation that has been used to get people on board with this.
So I guess, yeah, like that vaccine question, you'd say typically and previously a vaccine was understood to be a small amount of a disease to help you develop an immunity in order that you yourself would no longer be able to be infected by that disease and therefore not be able to spread that disease. Now, it's interesting that Fauci, when he didn't agree to be interviewed by you, if indeed that is what happened, perhaps the Hill preempted that and protected him from that, or perhaps nothing at all happened. These are all possible options. But it's interesting that he didn't say, yes, I'll do it. No, I won't do it. I will do it. I will do it under these conditions. I'll do 90% of a 90% effective interview. Like that. It seems to me that the narrative around vaccine efficacy altered. And some, like you said, like the simple question, what is a vaccine, is an interesting place to start, isn't it? And then I suppose, are you also interested, Kim, in questions around natural immunity?
Right, absolutely. I mean, natural immunity is a big one. How much protection do we get after we've been exposed? How long does it last? Those are things they should have been studying. And I think a lot of questions for Fauci in particular, as the guy who declares himself the science and who is in charge of the pandemic, and a lot of the research, where the research goes, where the money goes, what type of research they're doing, a lot of that is guided by Fauci and being the head of the NIAID. And so why are we not doing comprehensive studies on natural immunity? Why are we not doing comprehensive studies on other therapeutics that are out there that they were unwilling to even look at? They demonized hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin without even really fully doing any robust studies. Instead, they roll out Paxlovid, for example, Pfizer's drug. And what do we find out? We find out we didn't know much about it until we got into the real world. And then we find out, oh, what's this rebound thing? So they weren't doing comprehensive studies on it. They rolled it out saying, no, this is absolutely safe and effective, something that these other drugs that we're demonizing are not. And the reality is they don't know anything about any of the drugs, quite frankly. They're not doing comprehensive studies on even the stuff that they are rolling out, claiming they're doing comprehensive studies on. So I would like to know from Fauci, what does he decide on when it comes to what's studied, what isn't? How comprehensive does it really need to be? Not just with natural immunity and these other therapeutics, but why are we not also looking at the actual side effects of these various therapeutics, vaccines, not just vaccines, but also Paxlovid, side effects from that, or side effects from Regeneron or remdesivir, all of these various treatments that they used to help people survive, which absolutely needed to be done. For sure, we needed to do whatever we could, throw spaghetti at the wall to try to help people survive, but be honest about it and say, we don't know a lot, but this is better than nothing for those of you in those age categories. And the fact that they wouldn't separate those who are the most vulnerable from those who were not, like school children, young children, and instead said, no, everybody has to do this, just goes to show it was just such a dishonest way of going about tackling the pandemic. They weren't interested, it seems, in finding out any of those questions and getting answers for us. Instead, it was just, no, take this, make Big Pharma a bunch of money, and silence to any of us who actually questioned it, calling us conspiracy theorists, saying that we're anti-vaxxers, which is not at all the case, but just just the narrative around it and the lack of ability to ask questions. So I would be really interested to know, what questions does Fauci have? Does he have any at all? Because it doesn't feel like there are any coming from him.
Well, do you feel a little bit smarter already? Why wouldn't Anthony Fauci want to enter into open and honest debate? Why wouldn't he want to be subjected to legitimate questioning? Like, for example, you might say, well, these are the reasons that natural immunity is not applicable. These are the reasons we're not just recommending it to these particular communities or vulnerable people or whatever. Be in a conversation. I'm open to being persuaded. I'm wrong 100 times a day, at least. By Jove, I'm proud of it. Let me know in the comments below whether you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more. Let me know if you enjoyed this collaboration particularly. Please share this around with your friends, because we might not get the algorithmic support that this kind of content, in my opinion, warrants and deserves. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Have a look at either of these. Sign up to my mailing list so we can stay in direct contact with you. But more important than any of that, please stay free.